going to talk about the global dimensions of occupational health. I apologize to some people who've heard part of this before, but the new information is that we've actually updated the numbers. Unfortunately, they've been going in the wrong direction. So we even have more work to do than we thought. Last week, I said 2.34 million workers die every year from workplace causes. It's actually gone up, and I have updated numbers now, and it's 2.78 million. That is an astounding amount. I used to say it was one death every 15 seconds. It is now one death every 12 seconds. So just think about how many people have died from work-related causes just since we started this meeting. It really motivates us to do what we're doing. In addition, there are 374 million non-fatal work-related injuries and diseases every year. And occupational injuries and disease cost the world $2.8 trillion US dollars per year, 4% of the global gross domestic product. When you think about these numbers, it's really astounding that it doesn't get more global attention, and I think that points to the communications challenge we have for ourselves. The other thing, too, is that this pales in relation to other issues that get a lot more attention. Not that these things are not important, of course they are, but armed conflict and violence, road traffic, HIV/AIDS all claim fewer deaths per year than occupational injuries and disease. And again, that points to our communications challenges. Fatal injury rates are up to 12 times higher in low-income countries compared to high-income countries. And this is data also from the International Labour Organization, the ILO. This is a picture of agate production in India, where you can see children are standing right next to their parents being exposed to high levels of silica. Again, they're not the workers, but they are exposed because the work is often conducted in the home or in the community. And many of you may know about the tragedy of Zamfara, Nigeria, where many children have died of lead poisoning, many more than 300 in this headline. This headline was only about what was happening at that particular point in time. But many children are exposed to lead in Nigeria and other countries where there is mining, artisanal mining going on in the community, and they may be exposed to mercury from the processing or lead that's in the ore, and having some very huge child lead poisoning problems from those situations. And of course, the ultimate abuse of rights and certainly occupational health is forced labor and slavery. This past Saturday was the International Day for Abolition of Slavery, and the UN put out some data that said 40 million people in the world, an astounding number that just gives me some chills, are enslaved, and we can only imagine what their working conditions might be like. Global health and safety must be an international development priority, and I cited here a really interesting article that talks about how economic globalization is leading to an increased occupational health gap. Only 5 to 10% of the world's developing countries have access to OHS services. Here's a slide of the rates that shows the rates of growth. The darker the red or pink color, the higher the rate of growth in the countries shown on this map. And I think you can see that many places in Africa, Asia, have some of those darker colors, and these are often countries where there is not a lot of occupational health services being built in at the design stage. And we all know if we're not building in health and safety when we start development, it's very difficult to retrofit it later. So this also speaks to the challenge of how we have to communicate that if a country is developing, if new development is occurring, we need to build in occupational health and safety at the beginning. So what is filling the gaps? Again, Kevin talked a little bit about WHWB. There are a number of different organizations, nonprofit and NGOs that are filling it. I mentioned a few in this slide. And last week I talked about what WHWB is doing, so I don't want to take too much time for that now. But again, I mentioned our vision has been broadened to encompass families and their communities not getting sick because of work. And our mission, that was our vision, and our mission to prevent work-related disease around the world. Notice we don't mention occupational health professionals specifically, which was our first version of the mission. It's everybody who believes in our vision is invited to join us in preventing this terrible toll of injuries and disease. So here are some of our programs. Again, I spoke about these last week, so I'm not going to take the time now, but I know there are some new people on the line, so we do invite you to learn more about us on our website and in the fact sheet that is on there. And that's, in a nutshell, kind of what I wanted to say.